Hi, everybody. I am back for another review. I am going to be reviewing a TV movie that premiered in 1987. TV movies are something that a lot of you just don't see much of nowadays. Uh, in the U.S. and Canada and all over the world, a lot of TV movies at one time were a thing, and then over time, technology took its course and kind of ended the made-for-TV movie, and there used to be a lot of them when I was a kid. And I just happened to stumble upon a Betty Ford story. It premiered in March of 1987 on ABC in the United States, and the story is about Betty Ford, the first lady of the United States, who's married to then President Gerald Ford, and it talks about her um, battles with addiction. She was addicted to pain medication. She had a lot of arthritis, which she had to deal with. She had to deal with. She also had breast cancer. She had to deal with uh, just just the stresses of life. Just all of a sudden, after being thrust into the spotlight after the Watergate scandal, which ended the career of U.S. President Richard Nixon. For those of you that are familiar with American contemporary history, this takes place in the 70s, and it's shortly after Watergate, where Gerald Ford, who later became president after Watergate, was vice president under Richard Nixon, and then Richard Nixon had to leave because of the Watergate scandal. And I must say, on a side note, I will be reviewing All the President's Men at some point, which is one of my favorite movies. And fast forward to Richard Nixon resigning and Gerald Ford becoming the president of the United States. Uh, Betty Ford in this made-for-TV movie is played by Gena Rowlands, who also had a very lively Hollywood career. Um, it documents her life and struggles during her time in the spotlight when her husband was in the White House. Um, and while her family, everybody from the president and her kids, knew that she had been suffering from arthritis and whatnot, they did not know she was suffering from addiction, from alcohol addiction, from meds addiction. And the movie brilliantly documents. I brilliantly documented, I thought, what her struggles, the way how she hid her medication, the way how she hid the alcohol, and it it's actually a great. It's actually brings you back to a time where you weren't comfortable talking about things like this. Uh, you had to be able to hide it or to be a functioning member of society. But Betty Ford being very public with her having such a public profile, it it takes a toll on her, and it, it almost kills her, and she had to be able to understand that. And what happened was the family uh, confronted her about it. Um, and she had to change her ways, which led to her which led to her cleaning herself up, one thing, and then also opening up the Betty Ford Clinic, which is still in operation to this very day in the United States. Uh, but she was brave enough, I thought, to come out of her own shell and realize that she's dealing with a problem, and she also had her family to support her. Um, it's one of those TV movies where a lot of TV movies, especially in the US in those days, had a lot of these sort of stories where someone is battling some sort of problem, or someone's Perry Mason, which was a famous TV show in the 1950s, was later made into TV movies later on in the 80s and 90s. it involves people that go through a problem, work through a problem, and survive the problem on the other side. And this movie was just one of them. It's the Betty Ford story. It premiered on ABC um, in 1987, documenting the time Betty Ford was in the White House and Gerald Ford was the president of the United States. And it documents her family's trials and tribulations through the presidency of Gerald Ford. And also, Betty Ford was someone that was very, not like other first ladies. She was very active. She was one of the first active first ladies who wanted to take part in policy. She advocated for women's rights and things of that sort. And the movie, I thought, brilliantly documented everything all together, her whole trials and tribulations. And it it's a movie that I wish I can see more of now. These made for TV movies, but unfortunately they don't exist anymore. Now it's all in the world of streaming. So that's just something that I just stumbled upon. It's 1987, a Betty Ford story. Gena Rowlands plays Betty Ford. Um, I must say I did not like the actor that played Gerald Ford. I thought he did not look like Gerald Ford at all. So that's just my opinion of it, my review. And I will be back with another review.